Today I'm going to make a card using CSS Grid. It looks something like this. So I'm going to be doing it in CodePen, and I'm going to start with my doc type HTML to let my browser know that I'm writing in HTML5. Then I'll put in my HTML tags and then my body tags. So anything inside the body is what you're going to see on your screen. So first things first, I like to do a div. I'm going to call it class container. So I'm going to give it a class of containers so that I can easily access it using CSS. So in CSS, I'll do dot container because that's how we target classes, and then I'll add a CSS rule, which is made up of a property and values. So first one is going to be a border property with the values of 5 pixels in thickness, solid line in comparison to like a dotted line, and then black, which is already by default the color. So then I'm also going to give it a height of 100 VH, vertical height of the screen. And to remove the spacing around the container, I'll target the body and like zero out any margin and padding that comes by default with these browsers. Okay, then I'll go to my container and I'll add my div and I'll label it card. So I'll give it a class of card. And my card is going to contain two boxes. Basically, it's going to contain one, the image. I'm going to give this an ID of image. You can give it in a class of image, ID of image, it doesn't matter for this case. It's going to hold my image, and then the next one is going to be div. I'm going to give it a class of content, which is going to hold my heading, my paragraph, and my little button, just like over here. So I'll actually go into the CSS and I'll do card and I'll give these a border as well. 5 pixels solid, let's do red. And then I'll do copy this and do the same thing for the hashtag ing image and then for the content, and I'll just change these to be like blue and green respectively. So the image is a blue box, the content is a green box. Now I'm going to give the card some height, so I'll do height, I don't know, 300 pixels with 600 pixels, something like that maybe. Let me actually open it up in debug mode so I can see what it looks like. All right, so that's what it's looking like. I want it to be in the center of the screen, so I'll take the body, which is what holds the container, and I'll give it a display of, well, actually no, the container holds the card. I want the card to be at the center, so I'll take the container and give it a display of flex, making it a flex container, and then I can use flex properties such as flex, no, I could use justify content center to move it horizontally towards the center. There, so it moves to the right, and then align items center does the same thing, but vertically, so it's going to move it down in this case. All right, let me save that, reload, and it's at the center. All right, now here's the thing. The blue box and the green box, right now they have no height, they have no width, but here's the thing. I need them to be side by side, not on top of one another, so I'll go to the card and I'll give that a display of grid to make a grid of 2 columns. So I'll tell it how many columns I want with the property grid template columns, and I'll say 1fr, 1fr, which is the same thing as 2 columns. It's basically saying, hey, I want you to separate my card into 2 equally spaced columns, 1fr, 1fr. This is the same thing as 50%, 50%. Same exact thing. It's also the same thing as repeat 2 times 1fr. For example, like if one time you have like 50 columns and you don't want to put 1fr 50 times, you can just do repeat 50 1fr. But I'm going to leave it simple 1fr 1fr. So 2 equally spaced columns. All right, so now we have them side by side. We have the blue box and the green box. So for me, it's easier to just put the image right away. I have it uploaded on Pinterest because it's CodePen and it can't upload images, at least the free version. So I'm going to right click, copy the image address, and then I'll go to the image and give it a background URL and paste that in there, right? And then you'll see that it's not fitting. So I'll do a background size and set that equal to cover so it covers the entirety of its container, which in this case is the image. Right? Beautiful. And then if I'm not happy with the positioning, I could do background position and have it start from the bottom. So it moves like that, something like this. Or I could do center, move to the center. Or not, it's literally not moving. Okay, I guess it's not gonna move. All right, sometimes it's just like that. Anyway, it moved a little bit though. It just doesn't move here in debug mode. Anyway, that's okay. I'll go back to the content and I'll add my H1, which is going to be my heading. Then I'll add my paragraph, which is my P tag, and I'll put lorem and then tab and then close P tag, so it just generates random text for me. And then I'll do an A tag, which is going to be my button with an attribute href, which stands for the hypertext reference, which is basically where in the world your link is going to go to. And for me, I want to go to nowhere, so I'm going to put a hashtag for my placeholder. Then I'm going to call it button. And then I'll actually give this a class of, well, I only have one button. No, just for practice sake, I'll give it a class of button. Okay, so then I can go here to my CSS and I can just be like, okay, for the content, I want there to be some padding. So I could do padding 20 pixels to have things a little bit nicer. I can look at the, let's see, the button itself. So I'll do dot button. And I can remove the underline by setting the text decoration property to none, because right now it's set to underline. I can move the color and change it to something like black. I can take the background and change it to something that matches the background. So maybe something like, I don't know, something like this. Paste that in there. So in that case, I would change the color back to white. It's looking a little bit rough, so I would actually give it a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right, and I would give it a border radius of 20 pixels so that the border is round, or at least the edges are. All right, and then I'll also give it, let's see, I'll give it a hover, so I'll do dot button, so when it's hovered, in a state of hover, I want the background to change to like a darker shade. So I'll go and grab this and maybe take a darker color, paste that in there. So now when I hover over it, it should change to a darker color. Great, beautiful. Let me reload. All right, that's what it's looking like. I want there to be more spacing between the paragraph and the button. So what I'll just do is I'll take the dot content paragraph and I'll just give margin bottom 10 pixels or maybe 20 pixels. Apparently there was some margin already there. Trying to find it. About 30 pixels. That's okay. Whoa, where's my stuff? All right, but then here's the thing. If I look at this view over here, it's very like not responsive. So to fix this, I can start with actually making the height of the card to have a minimum height of 300 pixels, but the height that I actually want it to be at all times is the minimum content as long as it's not below 300 pixels. So there we go. Now it's responsive and beautiful. And now if I do that, let me hide these things. Okay. Um, it's really nice and it doesn't, do anything bad. Um, so yeah, that's kind of it. I'm gonna use JavaScript because I told myself I'm gonna do JavaScript today. So not that I need to, I could easily just go here and change this to say play, but because I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone and do JavaScript today, I'm gonna do it with JavaScript. So first things first, if I want to change what the button says, I have to target the button. So I like to, in this case, I would just give it an ID of button because for me it's easier to work with IDs in JavaScript. So I'll create a variable called button in JavaScript and I'll set it equal to the button in HTML by accessing the document, which is basically the browser's copy of your HTML page. Now, the reason your browser makes a copy of your HTML page is because JavaScript is an object-oriented programming language, meaning it only works with objects. And your HTML elements, that A tag is not an object, it's an element. So your browser basically converts that A tag into a node technically, but I call it an object, and it puts that puts all of those objects, puts that a tag into a document called the DOM, the document object model, which in JavaScript you can access by using document, and then you can access any objects from that document using functions like getElement by ID, which only returns to you one object. And so for me, that would be the button. Did I say btn or did I say button? I said btn, okay. So btn, all right? And so now I can say what I want to change, so I can do button dot inner HTML and set it equal to play. And hopefully I spelled everything right. Okay, beautiful. Someone said one time not to use inner HTML. I haven't researched a lot into it, but text content also works. Okay, and it said that it's better practice to do text content than inner HTML. All right, obviously this is really small, so you can zoom in or whatever, or you could just change the height and the width, but I'm not gonna bother. And yeah, that's it for today. Let me just go and get rid of the borders so everything looks nice and give everything a little bit of a background. So I'll take away these borders here and I'll give the card. All right, so it's looking like this. So right now I'll give the card, where is the card? Oh, here. I'll give this a background of hashtag EE 6 times or E6 times. And then I'll give the container a background of hashtag D3 3 times. Okay, so it looks something like this. It's really nice and pretty. And I guess I'll just change the heading to say something like Astro, I don't know, Astro Moon? Does that make sense? Like a game or something? Okay, I think that's fine. All right, and this is the final result. Um, oh yeah, no, it's not the final result. I want to do something else. I want to have a hover effect for the card. So when I hover over the card, I want it to go relative to its previous position, -2 pixels from the top, or in other words, from the bottom 2 pixels. All right, so now when I hover over it, you can see that it kind of moves to the top, but it's easier to think about it bottom 2 pixels. So from the bottom 2 pixels is the same thing as -2 pixels from the top. But yeah, now this is the final result. Bye!